For me, failure is not an option. Like, I'm in a space that I'm very grateful to be in. I love what I do, and I love what we create around our experiences.
I've built and sold companies worth millions. I don't just build brands, I build movements that grow fast, make money, and still give back.
The more consistent you can be with your promotions and your sales, the more that you're going to capture that ongoing customer, right?
If you're looking to grow with purpose and impact, you're in the right place.
Really, our job is to make sure that it makes sense, right? Making sure that you're getting the value.
Today's guest is Angela Bradway, a founder with grit, hustle, and a deep passion for this industry. After battling chronic illness and navigating cancer in her family, cannabis and microdosing became part of her healing journey.
With the inability to eat and the pain management and all these things, modern medicine wasn't suiting what I needed, right? So I really did lean on plant medicine.
That experience in her lit a fire. Angela now runs two companies, House of Ambassadors, which turns pop-ups into powerful brand activations, and Canna Management, which plans large-scale cannabis events that actually move the needle. She builds teams with real energy, trains brand ambassadors to show up with purpose, and understands how swag, samples, and storytelling connect customers to brands.
Again, if you're not retraining all of those budtenders on a pretty frequent basis to, update them on those certain products, again, the information is lost, right?
This is healing meets hustle, an experience that actually sticks.
Hi, my name is Angela Bradway. I do Canna Management and House of Ambassadors. Canna Management does event planning and management, and House of Ambassadors does brand activations and in-store pop-ups.
Okay, brand activation. So there's two companies there.
Right.
Brand activations. What is that?
So brand activations can be many different things, right? So depending on what the company goal is, those brand activations can be in-store pop-ups. They can be street teams for festivals, events. We also can take a creative end of it and say, what is your experience that you're trying to create for your guests? For example, doing like a St. Patrick's Day parade or something similar to that, really embracing what you're doing and the goal of the event within the community to activate that brand to give it the largest brand volume.
Yeah, so basically it's just like, because brand activations, as coming like a neophyte of coming into this world of like marketing and stuff like that,
right.
Brand activations, you're basically just trying to get your brand in front of a bunch of people. Activations,
right.
Is it really just for like people who are just starting, or is it just anytime you have a new launch? Like, when do you do a brand activation versus like a pop-up?
Right. So a brand activation can really be powerful when you are doing a launch, a product launch in a new state, like when you are expanding your services or your brand into new areas. We can see that being extremely beneficial. It's not always cost efficient for smaller operators to come right out of the gate into massive brand activations or, massive amounts of pop-ups, right? If that number doesn't match a smaller operator sometimes. And so really our job is to make sure that it makes sense, right? Making sure that you're getting the value and your need out of your pop-ups or your brand activations.
Got it. And we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah, we have. It's been amazing to see you grow, and happy to be here today.
Yeah, thanks. And so, and I'm just like a curious guy. Like, I'm just going to ask a ton of questions here. So, because I actually want to know, and I always try to aim on this podcast to learn something myself, right?
Yeah.
So on the Canna Management side, so House of Ambassadors, that's really activation, brand of activations, pop-ups.
Absolutely.
And then the event planning is Canna Management.
Correct.
And so, like, the event planning side, did you start with that side first?
I did, yeah.
Right.
So I started in 2009 or 2019 is when I got in this space. 2021, I officially launched Canna Management.
Okay. Why did you get into cannabis?
So I got into cannabis for many reasons. It's always been a part of my life. I had a husband that passed away from cancer. Cannabis use was a huge part of making him comfortable in his end of life. But I also had Lyme disease that went into my brain. And so I was unable to walk, blind in my right eye for 9 months, unable to form sentences. And it wasn't until I had a miscarriage that they found the Lyme disease had spread into my brain. at that point I was pretty disabled and struggling for my life, and with the inability to eat and the pain management and all these things, modern medicine wasn't suiting what I needed, right? So I really did lean on plant medicine, which I had already had that like in my household being brought up. It was always a part of our life. But it became even more like I wanted to know and be educated and understand, how this plant was making our life so much more manageable through a serious illness. And then so social equity programs got launched in Massachusetts. And my father actually had a previous conviction. He got, he had weight and he, had a felony under his name. And as a veteran, like that was like, it just was not a time and a place to be a veteran and be in a place of carrying, a large amount of cannabis. And so he was charged with a felony. And because of that, I was able to access the social equity program. And that was during COVID. And so through that experience, I did a lot of online networking, a lot of just consulting and really just finding community in what we were trying to do and accomplish as social equity entrepreneurs in the cannabis space here in Massachusetts. And as that evolved, I, created Massachusetts Cannabis Company, and I got eight HCAs approved through the communities and got partners, and then finally founded, the investors that made sense. And at this point, I had already launched Canna Management, so it's already really, Canna Management was bloomed out of figuring out as an operator who I needed to network with, whose products I wanted on my shelf, what products were not just talk, right? Which ones were actually powerful for the consumers and impactful for the consumers. So through that experience, I was kind of getting a lot of really deep insight into the industry at that point. And so I made a sound decision to not activate Massachusetts Cannabis Company and not activate those 8 HCAs and really just nourish what I was doing. And through that experience, Canna Management grew. And then about 2 years ago, we seen a real need in the industry to service these brand activations and really create a flexible program. Like, we've seen a lot of our operators were really struggling with full-time employment. Like, they just couldn't keep people on full-time. And there was a lot of layoffs. There was a lot of changeovers, particularly to brand ambassadors. So we created House of Ambassadors. It's woman-owned and operated. We have approximately 28 women in Massachusetts, some in Vegas, Maryland, New Jersey. So as we're growing, we're really trying to understand what each individual client needs and what their impact that they're trying to make in the cannabis space is, right? Every operator, every brand is different. Their goals are going to be different and their budget is different.
This episode is brought to you by Good Feels, makers of Good Vibes, the fast-acting tincture that actually delivers. Whether you're into classic flavors like grape, blue raz, or strawberry, or want to try our brand new 1,000 milligram mango guava, we've got a vibe for every taste. Just pop it into your drink and feel it kick in fast. None of the wait, all the feels. Available now in 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams bottles across Massachusetts dispensaries or at getgoodfeels.com. As always, 21 plus only, and please consume responsibly. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard for me to just gloss over the fact that you brought up, for instance, Lyme disease.
Yeah.
I think you might have mentioned that to me. I didn't realize it was debilitating like that.
Yeah.
What even is Lyme disease?
So Lyme disease is a tick-borne illness. It's, essentially like I got a tick bite. And it is an autoimmune disorder. So, at 30, I was diagnosed with dementia at 30 years old. Like, my brain was deteriorating from this disease. And so there was just not a lot of education or knowledge on Lyme disease when it was affecting me. Now 10, 15 years later, we're in a different place. But yeah, so after being misdiagnosed many times, I'm a nature girl. I'm always outside. I'm always hiking. I'm in the woods. I'm always out doing something. So I already knew that this was a possibility that I had Lyme disease. And then again, those symptoms just kept getting worse. So
you self-diagnosed and then you kind of saw somebody for it to confirm it.
Yeah. I mean, but they definitely, kind of there was some misguidance there. So just, thinking it was MS or Crohn's or something different. And then understanding, okay, well, my brain is sick. And so just having that feeling of my brain is sick, there was a difference, and it's just not, it wasn't just body pains, like your brain was sick.
So when that happens, because you had said you had even gone blind in your left eye
in my right eye, yeah,
right eye for 9 months. So you were like, there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
And is Lyme disease one of those things that I guess you have to catch early for it to like prevent most of the symptoms?
Yeah. I mean, in late stage diagnostics, like that's kind of what happened to me. And at that point, some of your systems just have major damage done to them. So it's just, classified as like fibromyalgia and, migraine syndrome. And so again, you're in a, society that is always like, here's some medication. Right. Here's medication to deal with that. So before you know, you're like, wait a minute, I'm 30 years old. I have, I'm pre-stage dementia, and you're telling me to take a handful of medication. As a widowed mom, it wasn't putting me or my family in a safe space. And so when I recognized that, whether it was just dealing with PTSD from losing my husband in the medical system and dealing with the side effects of Lyme disease, which was that nerve pain and those migraines and, an inappetite and like restless leg syndrome. So all these symptoms just continuously got worse. And then with the medications, it was all these side effects now. And so it really took me to educate myself. I found scientists and researchers that educated plant medicine, that studied in plant medicine, so I could really fall on that opportunity to move away from the traditional treatment plan of here's 5 prescriptions. And I really created a new wave of my second set of life, right? Like, I'm able to now advocate like, hey, I can, take psilocybin and take cannabis and take plant medicine. And I am not utilizing pharmaceutical drugs. I haven't taken them for 7 years. I haven't drank alcohol in 7 years. And so I think that, our society is so scared to talk about what really helps. And, it's a drug, and, it can be used as a tool. Everything can be, abused, everything. With the right tools, I was able to really put myself on a solid plan that I was able to sustain my family and not have to rely on others to care for my family.
That's what I was. My follow-up question was going to be: was it cannabis or other plant medicines out there? You already mentioned psilocybin, so those kind of were helpful for, I guess, in a therapeutic way.
Well, actually, significantly more than that, right? Like, so when I look at cannabis and what it helped me do, it depends on my consumption method, right? So, if I'm using your tinctures, it's a totally different effect than if I'm consuming flower, right? That is just a more calming effect and, anxiety relieving versus your product that's going to help me with my pain management. It really helped me stay focused and streamlined through my day. With psilocybin, I found with microdosing specifically, and I was unable to get high, right? So I was the rarity. So people wanted to do studies on my brain, like, why are you you can take a lot of mushrooms and still be totally normal. I wasn't having any psychedelic effects from it. As a teenager, I definitely had those psychedelic effects. So as an adult, we, kind of did our own research, right? And understanding how my brain responded to this. And with the help of a neurologist, I was able to see on my brain that I was stopping the deterioration of my dementia through microdosing. And so occasionally I would macrodose when I felt that my body needed it. So when my receptors were overactive or I was feeling this extreme fatigue or pain, that's when I knew that my body needed new receptors to be created. And so with psilocybin, it creates new receptors. So with somebody with fibromyalgia, when you have these constant overactive nerves, it actually creates new ones. So then your tired nerves get like a chance to reset and take a break. And I never was open to this, as, a young adult. I felt like there was so much stigma behind plant medicine and psilocybin specifically that I didn't understand the medical benefits of it. So until I got into the cannabis space and realized, hey, I have the tools around me to learn everything I need to know. Like I have, some of my best friends in this space are chemists and really pioneering change for plant medicine. And they helped me understand my brain and why my reaction was different than the typical reaction. So I think it's a delicate balance there.
And you
then,
know your body the best.
Yeah.
So you're going to know when to kind of treat specific things with certain specific plant medicine.
Yeah. So it's been amazing, like, as you know, experiencing it for myself and understanding how my body reacts to psilocybin is totally different than what yours would, right? So I had my father come to me recently and he said, totally not for, psilocybin. He had Lyme disease and ended up with some heart complications from it. And I think the last time we had scheduled this podcast, my father was put on life support. And so, again, like seeing where my father was with Lyme disease, I was giving him microdoses and I was watching like him slowly heal. And so when you see that and you experience it, it's just like, your nature to want to tell people like, hey, this actually is really helpful. It's very beneficial. And again, everything in moderation, right?
Right. So I was going to ask you about your father. So he's on the mend?
Yeah, he's on the mend. Very grateful for, the support of the hospitals team to get him where he needs to be. But, again, I think it's a deeper realization of how we need to take care of ourselves and prioritize our well-being and not ignoring our body's signals or signs to take rest or take a break.
I think I need some of that advice sometimes. I do a lot on a daily basis. And I know that rest is obviously a really important component of this because you will burn out eventually.
Yeah.
And in the process of, kind of understanding the cannabis industry, I like that story. I didn't realize that you'd created Canna Management, or at least were still holding events because you were trying to get more knowledge.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Like you're just out there, you're talking to a lot of people. And I think a lot of people going to the cannabis industry blind, and they don't realize that like, they're just like, hey, I've got a great idea and I'm just going to go launch a company without talking to anybody first. And so you went the opposite way. You're like, let me talk to a bunch of people.
I dove in. So we did our first event in the Seaport down in Boston. I did not know what I was doing my first event, right? So I had hosted events before, but not in the cannabis space. So again, and not knowing many people other than my connections that I was making on social media and in LinkedIn. And so that first event, we expected around 85 to 100 people. It was 170 people. They were all executive teams. They were all new business owners or, businesses that had been operating for a few years. In lines out the door. And my daughter was there helping me check people in. And it was this deep reality. Like, people need this. People need to have those conversations and vibe people out. Like, that's a real thing. Like, just jumping into with any brand, that brand might not work for you, right? Yeah. Like, if you're a dispensary owner, like, not all brands are a perfect fit for your space, right? And so understanding who's, talks the walk and walks the talk, like who's doing business that's good and who's reaching out and embracing the community, who's giving back to the community, who's making an impact in the industry. And I think after a few years, right, you understand the dynamic, you understand, okay, like, there's some bad actors in this space. And
absolutely, there are bad actors and we're always trying to spread positivity, but, we definitely, we know a lot of the same people too.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And there are definitely some bad actors. And there's also brands that have come and gone so quickly in a flash of an eye. And I think even my company here at Goodfields, we had to make a hard pivot. But we also kind of took a step back and said, because, back even 2 years ago, I was like, all right, we're going to go expand into Connecticut's about to launch, Rhode Island's about to launch. Like, we're going to start expansion and stuff like that. And we realized that, like, you kind of have to have a really solid home base first. Yeah. You can't, because a lot of people just want to launch the brand and start spreading super wide. But that narrow focus of just owning your specific category even, right? Without going too far outside of those things and without leaving the state and dropping something off. And, I had another podcast guest on last week and we were talking about a friend of ours and they launched a product here and we liked the guy. But he launched a product, and then within like a couple months, we never heard about it again. It was just gone because he went back to the West Coast, wherever he was living. He was just like, all right, that was fine. I'm sure that will go well. And then he just left.
Massachusetts
without any support
is a very tough industry. Yeah. If you are not a strong brand with a strong plan, it's a hard market, right? So, and I feel like companies like yours that start in Massachusetts, like you've had it rough. Like you've had it rough. So I feel like when you're ready to expand, you'll be in a better place than some of these other operators. We see some of these brands that expand too quickly. And then the reputation gets hurt for that inconsistency. So whether it's not being able to, get a hold of anyone or provide the product on a timely fashion on the shelves, that's a problem too. Is expanding too fast.
Yeah,
right?
We've seen that from our own perspective, and again from other brands who have entered the market, and they get up, but they leave, and they don't support it, and then all of a sudden, they have no plan, right? And then you just don't hear about them again. You're just like, oh, it was, they might have had a great innovation, new technology, or some kind of great product, and everybody really liked it, but then they have manufacturing issues. They can't get it done fast enough. They also might even just be like, they don't have a dedicated sales team to actually get into more stores and kind of keep on growing. So we've seen the full gamut of operators in this industry, whether they're licensed brands who are coming in and like partnering with somebody here, or whether they're starting from ground up. And that's why we kind of took a pause ourselves and said, like, let's just focus on Massachusetts, because there's so much more upside in Massachusetts that I think that people don't realize if you've got a good product. Right. Because once you set that base and that foundation, then you can kind of expand. So, but on the brand ambassador side, House of Ambassadors, you said you also have people in Maryland and Vegas?
So we're starting to onboard. So Vegas, we've hired a few people out there, New Jersey and Maryland. Again, not expanding too quickly, right? So kind of testing the waters. And I feel like in this space, we kind of have to do things opposite, right? And so in what I'm doing, a lot of that is, okay, we have to build a team in that state and then present this to our operators and our existing clients for expansion, right? As we see in our space of what we do, like the marketing budget is so inconsistent, right? And so
oh, you don't have to tell me.
So getting we offer discounts, right? So if you're doing a 3-month contract, it's going to be cheaper than a month-to-month basis, and of course that annual is going to save you the most money. However, we are in a space where people do not or are scared to commit, right? That we can afford this much per month towards our marketing for the year. So we find that that's a lot of their struggle too, right? Is that uncertainty of where the market's going, right? Like how much money can you make to make sure that your marketing can still make sense?
Yeah, and we try to do it as a rule of thumb. 5% to 10% goes towards our marketing from like top line revenue. And we kind of hover around closer to maybe the 5% mark. It just depends. And that's like all in.
Right.
So if we're doing ad campaigns, if we're doing pop-ups,
right.
if we're doing everything kind of all inclusive, between 5 and 10% is usually where we land. And so now that we've grown, we're able to actually have like really solid numbers here versus like any startup is lumpy. Revenue is up and down every single month for every startup out there, right? So you just don't know sometimes, like you said, it's no guarantee like what your money's going to look like in cash flow wise, especially.
Right. I mean, it's not even just a small operator issue, right? Even some of these MSOs struggle with that commitment quarterly on a marketing budget.
Do you have like a good split of startups and MSOs or?
Yeah, we do. And I think like because we are a flexible service and we offer kind of as needed, right? Like we'll have clients come on and we'll work with them for 14 months and then they'll take 4 months off, hire a brand ambassador, and then they still realize they need more support, right? So it really just depends on kind of what we're doing, but we see it all over the place. I think, like I said before, I think the smaller operators, we really have to make it make sense in order for me to even say like, hey, it makes sense. Like, because at the end of the day, I'm a small business too. It's like if those numbers like don't make sense for you right now, it doesn't mean like you don't need brand support. It's just like you don't need that much brand support yet, right? Like it's really just maintaining those existing clients. And I can't express enough is educating the budtenders, right? Like those pop-ups are crucial to the education that you're providing to your retail partner, right? And their staff. So, when we talk about like, are pop-ups effective and what's that ROI? that ROI is so hard to measure, right? It could be too sunny, there's not enough people. It could be raining, there's not enough people, or it could be crazy busy because of the rain. So it is, we can, plan these pop-ups on days that have the most volume, or the store is running a sale that makes the most sense for volume to be there. But really where our clients get the most benefit is having us in-store, educating, doing their inventory management. So when we're not just doing pop-ups. Like when you look at what we're able to include, it's doing inventory management, right? So it's like a lot of these brands have one sales team, right? So it's like half of these accounts aren't even being attended to. Yeah. So we go to do a pop-up and it's like the inventory doesn't match for us to do a pop-up. So if the inventory is there, we're not going to pop up.
Yeah, that's actually a funny thing that happens. It happens to us still to this day. And, we have a marketing team of 3. Yeah. So we're not huge, and there's 2 full-timers and 1 part-timer. And we sometimes struggle with that also, being like, listen, you have like 5 units left. It doesn't make any sense for us to go to this pop-up right now, because you're naturally going to sell those. By the time the pop-up happens, it might even be gone.
You're going to be gone.
So, right. Yeah, inventory management, I think, is a really crucial part. And I think a lot of people overlook that.
Yeah, well, it's us helping prompt that sale also. So some of our clients are seeing that revenue go up by 15-25% each month, just having us prompting that relationship.
You got to ask for the order.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we'd love to do a pop-up. We're so excited about that. But, we do see the inventory is low. We'd love to get you resupplied before that pop-up. So just maybe that outside source chiming in sometimes. And then, give a shout out to Little Alerts.
I was going to say Little Alerts is how everybody knows the inventory is low.
We could not do what we do so effectively without them. They've been a great partner to work with. They've supported us in our events and in our brand ambassador program, but really just making it make more sense, right? Mm-hmm. So, and again, like these pop-ups are hard to measure. So as long as you're putting in the key components to add to that pop-up, doing merchandising support, right? Like you'd be surprised at how many brands in April still have Christmas decorations on their brand in the store. So it's really just educating your team and making sure like these are the things that we're looking for when you go to each dispensary, right? Mm-hmm. And having a good system in place with your BAs to make sure that whether you're working with a small brand or a large one, that we can really give the biggest impact for that dollar spent.
Well, I think a lot of it just comes down to common sense, right? There's so much, like you were saying, like having holiday themed marketing up in March or something like that. You're like, what are we doing here, right? Now the the Budtenders themselves are like, whatever, it's their brand. I'm not going to go touch all their stuff. But, maybe some other stores might be kind of more progressive, or at least more aggressive in the sense of like they're going to go and just make sure all that stuff's down, because
or they just take it out. They'll just take it out, and then you're like, oh, there's absolutely no merchandising of your brand in the entire store. So really understanding like that too, right? Like especially we're working with smaller brands. It's like the impact of like a small marketing flyer put by a register, like how many more sales and brand recognition you're going to get just by having simple marketing.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, because one of the things we focus on is obviously we have our own pop-up schedules and stuff like that, but we struggle greatly with the ROI. Yeah, right. That's one of the things that like is problematic for us, because it's like we're spending full-time salary plus part-time salary, and we're also reimbursing for their mileage and snacks, and because we'll go there, Budtenders are like, hey, here's a bunch of snacks from on behalf of Good Feels, like go have some, have a nice snack break, and when we see like we sold like 3 units, we're like, is that like enough for us? Is it not enough? And then we'll actually measure the next, again using Little Alerts, we'll try to measure the next like week or 2 after that to see if that kind of like has a lingering effect, right? Just to see if there's like a little extra kind of bump afterwards.
And I think that there's different ways that you can also measure that ROI, right? I think that we look at that social media impact that it's making. And, for example, I can just think of this particular one incident that runs into my mind. Is we went to way Western Mass, I like to say, right? Like Athol.
Way Western Mass.
Way Western Mass.
Athol is even like centralist, but like
day, like
I would think like Westminster, like Lee, like those are to me like way Western.
Athol's pretty far too. I mean,
I know it is.
It's pretty far. But nonetheless, like, again, like tracking that. So we do an all-inclusive pricing package. So, you'll never pay like the mileage and the snack fees and all of that is incorporated into our cost. But examples like that, right? Like where you're sending a BA out, there's 3 customers that maybe walked in the store in the 4 hours. And that's where it's like, okay, we had them doing social media, doing the merchandising in store, building a relationship in educating the budtenders. So we always say like there's no slow pop-up for our team, right? Like
when does it actually, like, have you ever been in the position where you're just like, we're just not going to this store?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep, it doesn't make sense.
We don't have to mention any names, obviously, but like, like what triggers that event from you? You're like, all right, we're not just going to these stores anymore.
Sometimes it's just a bad vibe. Honestly, like, and it's like my team doesn't feel welcome there. With multiple brands, right? It's like, oh, this isn't.
It's not just like, one brand,
right? It's just like the budtenders are unwelcoming.
We've seen that too, which is super odd to us.
Yeah,
it's the cannabis industry. We should all be just chilling, like.
Yeah, and so it's not always like that.
Sell your product.
It's not always like that. So I feel like, that unwelcome, that is an issue that we see with a few dispensaries. Not many, but that is an energy thing is an issue. Some dispensaries just don't have the space for pop-ups. And some logistically don't make sense, right? So then you're like, my brand ambassador is parking 3 blocks away and walking with a wagon to fulfill this pop-up and paying $60 to park, right? So sometimes it just doesn't make financial sense, right? And then that's where we kind of just advise our clients, hey, like this is the logistical issue, or it's a vibe issue, or
because it could be more. It's more than just the finances. Sometimes, like a vibe issue is definitely something we've had happen to us, where we've had a brand ambassador go into a store, and again, I'm not mentioning any names, but there was definitely something off, and the budtenders didn't welcome them. They kind of just like would go behind the counter, or they'd go in the back room because it was dead.
Yeah.
They just go on their phones in the back room, and then maybe they'd hear like the bell ring, be like, okay, there's one person coming through. So like one person would pop up, so it's like, it's not very welcoming.
It's not welcoming.
Yeah. And so we've definitely had to pull back a lot of our pop-ups because we were just like, we shouldn't go to these stores anymore.
If they're not, if it's not mutually beneficial, right? Like, and I think we look at that as well, right? We see some dispensaries that are just fantastic with sharing. So anything we're sharing and our clients sharing, and then it's shared on the dispensaries page, that's really impactful. And I think that, having those conversations with your dispensary partners is really important too, of like, hey, we're doing a pop-up. We'd love for, keep an eye on the social media and share it. Some people, of course, have a built-in social media person that they're constantly monitoring that.
Those are the better stores that they already know that's happening.
Right.
They're all tuned in to what is supposed to be happening here, and they'll go and share, and they'll comment, and
just doing a pre-pop-up post and having the dispensary share. It's just because it's, again, like, how do you justify the expensive in-store pop-ups? And it's a combination of things. It really has to be a delicate balance of all these different layers of things, and that social media angle is huge. And again, building those relationships, like to see these dispensaries get so excited to see our team, and they're like amped up to see our team that day. And it's not like we have products that we're handing out. Right. We're not, we're really just creating an experience, right? So to see that is really like, been just amazing to see as a business owner, to see our brand ambassadors so welcomed and embraced. And so, of course, when there is bad vibes, it's like, okay, we know that team
something's
member,
off.
Yeah, like that team member is spectacular. Like, like that's not a BA issue. That's a dispensary
issue.
And sometimes, because we require our BAs to collect feedback, and that those are things that our BAs would put in there, right? Like unwelcoming staff, or any issues that they might see with this particular dispensary, or like, this dispensary was unsupportive of any of the things that we were doing, or promotions that we were trying to do. So that's a big thing too.
Yeah, I think
documenting it.
Documentation is really important. We do that a lot in our team, and so we all read the reports after every pop-up, like what was going on in the store.
Right.
And, we always encourage our team to use just common sense. Yeah. Like if it's not welcoming, if it's a dead pop-up, and yes, you can educate them, but maybe we can only go there once every 2 months.
Right.
You know what I mean? We can't go there once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Good Vibes is more than a product. It's your cannabis toolkit. Drop it into your drink, mix it into tea, kick up your mocktail, or just pop it in straight. You can even bake or cook with it. Our unflavored option is perfect for brownies or any recipe where you want control and precision. No more guessing how strong your edibles are. Available in 500 milligram and 1,000 milligram bottles, and flavors like strawberry, grape, blue ras, and our newest mango guava 1,000 milligrams. Grab your toolkit at dispensaries across Massachusetts or at getgoodfeels.com. And as always, 21 plus only, please consume responsibly. But let's talk about recruiting real quick. So basically, you said you're 28 in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Now, you obviously have to have a lot of brands to be able to support that. But when it comes to recruiting, are you looking for people who are from the industry already that have cannabis experience? Because when I think of pop-ups, I think of back in the day, I was going to the bars and there'd be some girl with like tequila shots and stuff like that. And have the swag on and be like, hey, you got to try this tequila, and like calling you over and stuff like that.
We have taken on some BAs that are not from the industry, that are new to the industry. And it has worked out well for us. And I don't even want to say it's a 50-50. Like it's probably 20% of our BAs or non-cannabis even consumers, right? Like, fantastic at sales, right? So it's
they're
like
just personable.
And it's just like, okay, like, and you educate them. Give them the education that they can do your elevator pitch very easily for your brand, right? So as we're looking at expanding, a big part of our expansion is making sure that we're getting outside clients outside of the cannabis space.
Right.
So we can maintain those hours that we need with our team. So, again, it's hiring, on experience, but like for me, I'm reading through all these resumes and we're interviewing them. It's an energy thing. With a BA, it's like, it's an energy thing. And then that flexibility that you have with your team, right? Of, okay, we understand a BA, it takes a very certain kind of energy and person to be a BA. And so we have a big rule, like if your energy is off, like have somebody cover your shift. Like
if you're not feeling it today,
if your energy is off, because then like nobody is going to engage you. You're going to hurt the brand and you're going to hurt our brand. Really just because, you're not in the space to do that job. And that's another big reason why we have a big team, right? Is, we're all women owned and operated. So it's like we have to make sure that we're giving everyone the space that they need to grow and develop as they need to.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a big component of it is that you have to, if you're not feeling it that day, you're not feeling it that day.
Right.
And that's actually the struggle we have as a small team. It's just like, you just kind of have to put that smile on your face and kind of
it's hard. Yeah.
But it's not always the most pleasant conversation sometimes because everybody has off days.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's really great that you guys can actually support your team with like that by saying like, all right, if it's not happening today, you're not feeling it today, like let's just.
And I mean, people will take advantage of it. Like people do take advantage of it, or have not, anymore. But now it's creating a system of people that understand that this is a rule that's in place to just protect all of our brands and your own self, right? Like if you're not,
you don't want to put the work in. That's on that person.
Right.
Like we're. In what we've been saying a lot recently internally through recruiting processes of our own, not just for marketing, but for all roles, we're just like, I'm happy to give you tons of opportunity,
right?
But you got to bring that motivation behind it. I can give you opportunity.
Yep.
We have so much to do. Like we're constantly swamped with more things to do and more opportunities to grow in your career, to learn new things, to just step up and become that next level person. But if you're not willing to actually like show up and do the work, you don't belong here.
Right.
I don't have room for you. We're a startup.
Yeah. This is an industry that we are still grinding it out, right? And if you don't understand that, you probably shouldn't be in the cannabis space, right? Like, we do have to wear a lot of hats all the time. We're always looking at our brand ambassador that we're hiring. We're always looking at their transferable skills, right? And we're always building positions within the company to make sure that they're fitting in within their transferable skills, right? So I think that that's really special to do too, because then you really are getting people that are excited to do their job. They do it well. It comes natural to them. And just making those positions based off of not maybe hiring. We kind of hire like this is a generalized position, right? And then we look at those transferable skills like, hey, this person actually could play a more crucial role within the company.
Is there like sharing between the different companies as well? There's some people work the canna management side as well from the brand ambassador.
Yeah. And our team is just like a big family. Like they're all so great. So when we're doing like an event, particular to Massachusetts, our entire team our BAs will come in and support. They're well qualified and trained to do the event process.
So on the event side, so Canna Management, this is the first company.
Yeah.
Besides Massachusetts Cannabis Company, which you had 8 HCAs and kind of just like,
I walked away from it.
From it all. Just said like, we're going to.
It was in my best interest. Yeah.
So so not to go down that path, but really more focused on Canna Management, like on the event side, give me the ring. Like, are you throwing these massive parties, or is it just like an intimate affair, or like everything in between?
Yeah, so we're not always known for our raging parties, right? Like it's not, we do things very intentional, right? As a widowed mom, I understand my time is extremely valuable. And when I'm doing networking events in the evening, I'm very like goal focused. Like this is who we want to meet. This is who we intend to network with. So we're really curating that space. So when a client comes to us, we are really curating that experience and that attendee list, right? So if you're doing a wholesale launch, that, that curation of the audience is going to be different than if we're in Vegas, doing a executive focused curated room, right? But our goal of the event is really to make the most impact within that space. So, for example, we've been doing a series of tastemaker summits, right? So we did one in Boston. We'll be doing one in Chicago, but we really go in and curate that, right? It's executives and decision makers, and those are some of the audiences that we are trying to engage with on a national level. As far as brand launches and product launches, we can do that anywhere really effectively. It's really just a data collection of making sure that you're getting the right audience.
Right. And that audience would be buyers, I'm assuming.
Right. Buyers, yeah. All the buyers, dispensary owners. It really depends on what that brand's goal is, right? Like we've had brands come to us like, hey, we want to just like embrace the budtenders in the industry and brand ambassadors, and we want to host an event to really curate a space where they can experience our products, which is so beneficial, right? But having that blend, so, we say in circumstances like that, like if you need a direct ROI off that event, yeah, like let's do something great like the budtenders will sell your product all day long if they like your product. Right. So there's that combination of incorporating those budtenders for brand voice and recognition, but getting those executives in the room that can make the decisions on whether or not your product goes on those shelves.
Goes on the shelf, right? Yeah. Exactly, which is obviously a really important part.
So on these events, we've been able to, and we're grateful that some of our operators have given us really transparent numbers about that ROI off of our events for them. But again, that number doesn't always look the same if they don't have a great reputation in the space, So
yeah, reputation sometimes precede them.
Yeah,
they're just like, well, we've heard about this company before. Maybe we're still not interested.
Right.
It's up to you, obviously, to bring the people in.
Right.
There's only so much you can do. It's out of your control.
Well, and not really. Like we go in like targeted. Like, give me a targeted list. Like whether you're sponsoring an event, like in a public event, we ask our sponsors, who are your targeted clients? Like, give me 10 to 20 people that are going to be in that area for that conference that you want in the room, right? So we go in and we're targeting your audience.
It's very specific.
It's very specific. It's very specific.
That makes a lot of sense because that's like, those are the decision makers that you need in that room in that moment. And that's when that serendipitous moment can happen and you can actually make that sale, or that relationship can be grown or whatever. I mean, the Budtender events, I think, are really impactful because I do feel like there's the buyers, of course, but what we always say in this company is the first sale is the easy sale. It's the second, third, fourth, fifth sale that's the hard one, because if the product doesn't move off the shelf, right, they're not going to buy it again. Yeah. So that first sale, a lot of buyers, especially the buyers who've been around a long time, they understand the process well enough that they'll be like, sure, we'll give you a shot. Not a huge order, but we'll give you a shot. And if it moves well, great, right? And you'll have to support with marketing and do pop-ups or whatever. Excuse me. Whether it's brand activation or whether it's budtender education or whatever the thing is to be able to support it. But it all comes down to the budtenders in a lot of ways because we're so restricted on advertising. I can't just go on to Facebook and blast people like, hey, $35 for a 500 big tincture at all these stores and blah, blah, blah. Like, you can kind of do it, but it's not going to be that direct anyways.
So find the budget to put some T-shirts or hats in there for those budtenders,
is that what
right?
Like the needle for them?
For me, what I look at, like that keeps continuing on brand's growth throughout, like whether you're doing in-store pop-ups or not, right? Like that continual growth. People love free things. It doesn't matter what it is. And I think that now we're coming to a time where people don't always want like lanyards, or the pins always sell. Like everyone always wants pins.
Okay.
But if you can put in a budget, like cheap T-shirts, hats, like they will wear your brand every day their 10-hour shift a day. Like they'll just wear your brand if they support your brand. Right. But that's something that we see, like that $5 went a really long way. Like, how do you can't really measure that ROI, right? Of like, okay, we gave, 20 t-shirts per store or whatever.
Because it can get expensive.
It can get very expensive. And that's why I just say, like, source out those materials when you're doing massive orders like that. But even just like doing contests, right? Like within those budtenders, or for those budtenders. Also, what we see is like really impactful is collecting the data while you're doing pop-ups, right? Like incorporate a small incentive for those new consumers to scan that QR code and sign up for your mailing list, right? Like, you could win movies and $50 towards your snacks at the movies, and like you'll get a lot of data from that, right? So there's little things that you can do that's cost efficient that really can get your brand out there and get people excited to get their information.
I think that's fantastic, because I often think especially within internally in our team, like, what else can we do? What else can we do in surveying and stuff like that? We do a ton of that, but I like that idea. I don't think I've ever, like, even just talking to, as customers come up, be like, hey, sign up for the newsletter or whatever, some kind of incentive, like here's a shirt, here's a
raffle,
here's a pin, or whatever,
simple little raffle.
Or a raffle.
Here's some sport tickets.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's some concert tickets. And
since it's that, I believe, is fully permissible under the regulations, because it's a one-on-one relationship at that point, right? You're not broadcasting on Facebook, like, here's a deal. You're instead saying, here, be entered into this raffle. Yeah. Here's a ticket, whatever, just for talking to me, like scan this QR code. I think that would be that's a really interesting one that I don't think we've kind of gone down that path too much. But speaking of those, like, kind of things that move the needle, swag is what your kind of big thing is right here. Like, out of like the top 3 things that move the needle, would swag be like number 1, or would it be like budtender education or?
I mean, I think swag is definitely important, right? Like, I think, again, when we're looking at budtenders and what really, like, gets them excited, like, snacks is always going to be a win. Product sampling, which we know is a difficult thing to do. We can't really do that. And so, I think that education is huge, but it goes beyond that education. It's getting them excited. It's really maybe even creating a raffle for those budtenders. Like, hey, share our information on the page. Are you a budtender in the industry? Like, you could kind of manipulate your wording on the marketing to, again, like, capture that audience. But I think the budtenders really are, they want the education, and they're gonna feed off of that information because they can then tell the customers about it. But people will wear your swag all day.
Yeah, swag, I think, is really
hats. Important. Like, I mean, for me, right, like a shirt, you're maybe wearing one a week, right? Like a hat. A lot of these guys are wearing hats all day in these dispensaries. So it can be something that really goes a long way. If you have a smaller marketing budget, use the pins. Like, a lot of the budtenders collect them, right? So stickers are helpful if that marketing budget is limited. I can't tell you how many times I've seen your stickers at like every Dunkin' Donuts drive-through.
Oh, that's awesome. I'd actually, I have never noticed that.
And I'll start taking pictures, and then I'll we'll create like a reel of, all of your stickers all over the place. Yeah. But really, like, people do that, right?
Our sticker budget is out of control.
Right, but get shiny stickers. People will put them places, not always in the right. We spend so much money
on stickers. We're like,
always in the right
sticker printer at this point.
Yeah, maybe it might make more sense.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you some sources for cheap stickers too.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, if you're buying a lot of them, it might make sense.
Yeah, bulk.
But yeah, I mean, incentives like Spark Plug is a good thing if your dispensary is incorporating Spark Plug. Again, if people have incentive, they will sell your product. So if you're saying, hey, if you move this much product, you get X, Y, and Z, people will do that, right?
Yeah, Spark Plug is one of those. I mean, Sparkplug is controversial, though, right? We use Sparkplug.
Yeah.
Don't get it twisted. Yeah. Like, we totally use Sparkplug, but we've definitely had some awkward conversations with some dispensary owners who are just like, I only want to sell the products my budtenders believe in, because they're getting paid to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I totally get it. Yep. It's a legitimate reason.
It's literally like everyone has a different opinion on that. And you have to just, go per dispensary on their views. And we work with a lot of dispensaries that do not have Sparkplug as an incentive program. And again, I think that that's where that education really comes into play and getting them excited, right?
Exactly.
So having somebody like amped up like a cheerleader going into them like, yeah, we're ready to do this. Like that makes a huge impact on your brand.
Yeah, there's also alternative platforms like Learn Brands, I think, has educational platform versions.
Right.
Like, hey, if you take this course, mini course, because Learn Brands also does like RVT too. So a lot of people already have an account at Learn Brands. But Learn Brands is like, if you take this course and learn about our brand, we used to give away a water bottle.
Right.
Like, here's a branded Good Feels water bottle, right? So, and we used to do that through like Zoll Train and stuff like that. But there's a lot of these marketing platforms out there. And there's a lot of vendors who are always trying to get our attention of like, hey, use our service. And anybody who wants access to Sparkplug, I can make that intro, of course. But on the Sparkplug side, we do see pretty good success. And sometimes we see these anomalies. We're just like, wait a second, we're offering like $4 a bottle. If you sell it, you get $4. If you sell one an hour, you're basically getting a $4 raise, per hour, right? So if you're only making 16, now you're making $20 an hour. So like you should be taking advantage of these things. But sometimes, and we don't know if the budtenders aren't getting the message, or if they see it and then management says, hey, don't worry, ignore that, or if like sometimes you just see like a couple of sales, right? And we're just like, but we're offering so much incentive to be able to make these hits happen. So
maybe
it's hit or
doing
miss. It
that
depends in the store. Sometimes.
One pager to be able to put that in the dispensary in the break room or something like that. Sometimes the information is just not available, right? Like, and the turnover rate is so high that, again, if you're not retraining all of those budtenders on a pretty frequent basis to update them on those certain products that run those incentives, again, the information is lost, right? So
yeah, I think it's one of the underlooked things that we've definitely identified is the break room. Dispensaries have break rooms. Yeah, put your stuff there, hang them up, like show them that like you are in Sparkplug and here's the incentives for this month or whatever. Send them flyers in the order. You know what I mean? Like have them put in their break room. So we try to do the best we can of kind of educating the budtenders that these things do exist and you should take advantage of them. But sometimes it falls flat. We're sometimes just puzzled. Like we don't get it. Or like sometimes we'll give away like a Puffco Peak or something like that. Like here's like a $200.
Are you collecting device. Like the budtenders, all the emails from that and?
Through Spark or you?
Yeah, like
I don't know if we can do that through Spark. I don't know. Like we do collect data, but individual budtender emails, I don't think we have been collecting.
Maybe that's a way to push the information, right? I mean,
if we could just build our email list, it's one of those things that in the very beginning, I was like, we got to grow our email list. And then we kind of just like, whatever. We kind of just like pushed it to the side.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a while to build your email list for sure. But again, it's going to be your direct source of information, whether it's from you to the budtender or you to your consumers, right? Like it's your direct line of communication for them.
And I think a lot of people don't realize this, that budtenders are also consumers in many ways. They are sometimes your best customers, and we hear that a lot. So when we do swag, sometimes we'll give them these hoodies, and you'll see, Neat I saw like 10, 12 people wearing our hoodies, and I was just like, how'd you even get those?
Yeah,
and it's because our field marketing team, our brand activation team, or whatever you want to call it, was out there handing these things out to the people that we know, are super fans of us, right? And so just outfitting all our super fans, people used to always say like, if you can just find that tribe of 1,000 people and you can just get them super excited about it, it'll spread. Yeah. And we're seeing that very successfully right now.
It's that organic marketing, right? Like that organic relationships you're creating. And, people remember how your product made them feel or what you experienced while you had that product, right? That's a big part of it. But having your super fans cheering you on, like they are, your front line of support, right?
Yeah,
and the amount of money that the budtenders can send you and save you in marketing, right? Like really, like they will wear it all day and promote your brand, not even trying to, right? Like people need to see your brand at least 3 times in order to feel safe buying it, right? Like we see that, right? Like people need information 3 times. We're like, oh, okay, like actually I'll take, I'll try it, right? So when you're looking at that, like again, like having that brand representation where it's just like, oh wow, you're like, oh, I just seen that 6 times today, right? So now you're the massive brand on the sales floor, and none of those people have anything to do with your company, right? But they're your cheerleaders, and they're walking through the entire conference just
Exactly.
I mean, so it's a beautiful way of really understanding that how far that $15-$20 hoodie might have went.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it goes really far. And we do get compliments on it a lot, and so it was great to see at NECAN. A lot of people walk around with our swag, and when people would come up to our booth, we were like, "Hey, have you heard of Good Vibes?" You're like, "I love your product," and they'd just be. So at one point, I was just like, "Hey, can we record some of these because people are just raving about us right now?"
It's great.
So we definitely hit like a nerve in the market where people were like, "We love this product."
Yeah.
Whatever luck we had in creating this product, it was.
I don't think it was luck.
I mean, we also have a lot of experience doing this. We've been doing this for quite a long time.
You created a product that is in alignment with so many different consumers, right? Whether they're young or they're old, you've created that versatile product that no matter what your consumption style is, it's still such an easy and effortless way to consume or feel like you're included in a social group, right? Like there's been a lot of times having your newer product, Good Vibes, right? And we're like in a bar setting and nobody's drinking. We're just all doing Good Vibes. So it's just like, it's really beautiful to see so many people relate to your product, right? And that's because you really understood what you needed to create for what you were doing, right? And there's been a few that have tried, but nobody compares to what you're doing, right? It's that formulation and that effort that you put into it and the experience that you had. I mean, I'm not going to say take too much Good Vibes, but I did. When you released your new product, I took too much on accident. I wasn't paying attention to the dripper. And I laughed. I mean, I was ripped with like an 8-pack, I was like, wow, this is like, because I had such a great experience, and I'll always like relate your brand to like this wonderful experience I had with my friends and my family. And so that is something, again, it's the experience you create, right? So the product is amazing, but it's also the experience that product creates within you. So
yeah, I like that. Thank you so much for those kind words. Because we did design it purposefully, of course, but like there's always a little bit of luck in there to like get it across to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because we still theorize that 99% of the adult population 21 plus in Massachusetts have never even heard of us before,
right?
Which is why we think there's such a large ceiling here for us. Right. And if you look back, and I didn't mean to talk about our products that much, but if you look at the headset data that was just released, you'll see the only growing category was tinctures last year.
Absolutely.
And it was 30% up or something like that.
And I think we also need to recognize too that like we have a community too, that we have a lot of high tolerance consumers, right? So providing a product that is now affordable, you can go places with it. It's you're not overwhelmed with supplies or a rig or anything crazy. It's just a simple little bottle that you can put in your to-go bag, right? Like, so I think that it also hits all these other like pain points of like, for those particular people that might be high dosage, or, like people that have a relationship with somebody that cannot handle high dosage. You're like, hey, we really like want to, consume together in a safe environment. But again, that's
a drop or two.
Right. And it really does make a difference of like, I mean, I'm not a huge edible fan, but I have been in a situation where people were handing out edibles, and those edibles to watch in a social setting of like how they affected people differently. They were unable to like, break really that. I mean, depending on what, formulation they're making in their gummies, sometimes you can break them apart, but you're not getting an accurate dosage. I think, again, with a product like that, you can really share that consumption in a safe way for your entire group.
Yeah, you can fine tune it for everybody.
And it's affordable, right? Like I can go in and buy your product for like $45 and I know that, that's enough for like a while.
For a lot of people, that's sometimes that's like, it's funny because we'll talk, our brand ambassadors will be out there talking about the product and, the person's just like, I only want a couple milligrams a night or something like that, just to take the edge off. We're like, this is perfect for you. Just take, it's like not quite 1 milligram for our low 500 milligram product. It's like 0.7 milligrams per drop or something like that. And so you can just take a couple drops, put it in your water at the end of the night, like with dinner or something like that, and you're good to go. And that will last you like 6 months.
Yeah. And so I see it with the, older people in my life, right? That they're always coming to me for that information. Like what, the gummies make you feel groggy, or like they just don't like whatever that. I had that feeling with gummies, so I can relate. But this is the product that I've been suggesting, right? Because I think that when you're looking at those older groups of people, also say 65 to 85, that are not in a position where they're going to consume, smoking, or they're
smoking all of a sudden,
right, or they might not like the feeling of the gummy, or it might be a sugar concern, or whatever it may be. I think this is a perfect option. And again, I don't think we've tapped into that market in Massachusetts quite yet.
Yeah, exactly.
That's 65 to 85. Like, I think because our marketing restrictions, I think a lot of people are hesitant of really doing brand activations targeting that specific group, right? But then when you look up like the makeup for Massachusetts and in the demographics of Massachusetts, we're missing a huge amount of people that are consumers between the ages of 65 to 85 by not having an access point, right? We can't put a commercial up.
Yeah, and a lot of these people may be hesitant to walk into the dispensary.
Absolutely.
Right? And they're just like, I don't want to be looked like a stoner.
And this is where I suggest, a brand's partnering with a delivery company and then promoting those flyers of like, hey, do you want your cannabis delivered to you? And then going into like wellness centers or things that are targeting 65 to 85-year-olds and really giving them that information. There's a whole nother level of feeling safe when you know that you can have your cannabis product delivered to your door.
To your door versus having to like walk into our store.
Yeah, I mean, it's particularly for that age group too. I think that we're missing a huge market in Massachusetts in that age demographic. And I think that there's a lot of missed opportunity there.
Yeah, do you find that there's other, I guess, because since you guys are looking at data constantly, what are other trends out there, or like things that people maybe could take advantage of today?
Trends in brands, or
just trend, like things that you're seeing in stores that you think that are, I guess, that are like things that have been working lately, then maybe things that haven't been working.
I mean, the trends that I feel like are always going to work the best are consistent sales, right? Like I see these dispensaries are like every month it changes, and it's like
there's a different menu every time you go.
Yeah, and it's just like the more consistent you can be with your promotions and your sales, the more that you're going to capture that ongoing consumer or customer, right? Like. There's certain locations that we work with because they're in a more of a tourist location that they don't have that steady stream of regular consumers coming in. It's kind of just like when it's tourist season, it gets busy. And they don't have that normal clientele.
Yeah, especially places in the Cape, I'm assuming. Just like it's summer.
And in the city.
Summer, the Cape is.
And in the city. And in the city, it's like you have so many people coming in, and then like your normal consumers, your everyday, your neighbors. What are you doing to help your neighbors, right? So that is where that consistency could really pay off in just doing that. Whether it's like a $5 or $10 pre-roll, or a certain brand being highlighted, or an oil on Thursdays, or drinks on Fridays, special right? Like special days, but having that consistency, I feel like that's what some people struggle with. And then some of the dispensaries that we see that are consistent within those sales or promotions will put in like 450 like customer count on a Tuesday. It was like, how do they pull in 450 people on a Tuesday? It's like, because they have the same promotion going for a year.
Tuesday or whatever. Yeah,
it's like you have a solid customer base that's going to come in every week faithfully on that day, because everyone's, especially if you're not on a medical program, you're trying to save that 30% you're getting hit on taxes. Right? So that's what I see as like, really trending and take advantage of these like free marketing tools, right? Like think of it, if you're a pre-roll brand, right? And you're going in and you have, a special sale on the same day they're doing their pre-roll sale, you're going to sell out on that day. You're going to have 500 customers on a Tuesday, and you're going to sell out of that product on the shelf. And then you build that relationship where like they know they're going to stock you because you always sell out every week, right? Exactly. So I think paying attention to your partners, your retail partners, and making sure that they, have some kind of promotions, and maybe even like a monthly promotion particular to your brand, that can really capture those long-term consumers of your product.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some people who've been doing it really well. I think what immediately comes to mind is Dime.
Yeah.
They do, I think it's the 10th of the month or something like that. They have Dime Day. Yeah. And they shoot to number one every time.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. And so again, I think like you have to give and take a little bit, but once people are familiarized with your brand and your product and the experience of your brand, that's where you build that long-term customer. But when you have a promotion, like they will drive out of their way and they will max out their capabilities on your product. As a consumer who does that, I know that.
Exactly.
Like, well, you spend a lot of money on your favorite products. It is like, okay, you look for those. Luckily, I'm in the industry where I can really target like who has sales and what sales are running on what brands or products. But yeah, I mean, I think people are, we're in a society that we're all in a financial scary place right now. So I think the more that we can incentivize maybe, doing a 2 for whatever sale or just any like promotion, right? Like even if it's $2.50, people want to feel like they're saving.
Yeah.
And I've had that experience with brands that I love that I'm at a point now where they raise the price where it's like you can't justify the expense, right? And then they're never on sale. So you're like, oh, I love the brand, but only on a special occasion am I going to buy that brand,
right? Because it's so expensive now. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we chose that price point was because there is just financial uncertainty in this world.
Absolutely.
And we're like, let's make it affordable so people can buy as much as they need to, and we'll have people buying 6 of these bottles at a time.
Yep.
And with that said, our COGS are going up too because of all of our costs, packaging costs, things like that are going up, and the market for just the raw products like distiller are going up again. So everything's going up again. So like it's costing us actually a lot more money now. And so we recently had to raise prices a little bit. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's still affordable. Right. And more importantly, we don't get to tell the retailer what it costs. Right. Absolutely. That's one of the things I think the customers are like, these guys are wrong. Yeah. It's not me.
It's not you at all.
If I sell it to somebody for $20 and they put it and they put it up for $60, I don't have control over it. Like they're getting their $40 margin. And I wish I got that margin. Yeah. I wish I got that extra $10, you know what I mean? Right. But like I'm not. So, it is a shame sometimes when customers see these outrageous prices, but to be fair, now that we're in so many stores, you can just kind of, if it's unfairly priced, then you go 10 miles down the street and find another store that's for like $35, $40, And
it really is up to those dispensary owners to make those prices, but it can really hurt your relationship with your consumers if that price point's inconsistent. But again, like maybe, you have a good finder on your website, so you can punch your information right there. But I do find like there is some great brands out there that don't have this like plug-in, and it's like, if you're old, and again, like you run into issues like that where that price point might, not make sense if you drive 10 miles and it's an affordable product. But again, I say like, the more that you can incentivize those promotions, and you don't have to do it consistent, like, weekly if you're a brand, but being in a system where you're pushing out to your consumers on an email basis, like, again, capturing that data so you have that direct route of conversation with your consumers.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's lacking as a brand, as a manufacturer, is that we don't have direct relationships unless we find those email addresses and get them involved, right? So there's definitely something we want to continue to work on, and something
that's a simple raffle, like a simple on your pop-up table.
Cost,
like literally, like you have your marketing team just put up a QR code, like free movies and dinner. Free, like literally cost your company $100, and you probably got 250 emails out of that. You can, you're hand delivering your messages. You can say whatever you want to your email crowd, right? So I think that there's, again, all these like missed opportunities. It's just thinking outside of the box, and in a financial hard time in Massachusetts, we have to be really on our toes and thinking, like what can we do to really get in front of our consumers,
Yeah. So it has been quite a journey for you. And this is kind of like, I don't want to dampen the mood too much, but have you ever felt as being in the startup world, have you ever felt like just giving up?
I mean...
And if you haven't, then what has been driving you?
I haven't really... I mean, there has been times of like, I don't want to ever say that I'd ever had that like reflection of like, I should give up. It's just pivoting as an entrepreneur. It's like, failure is not an option for me, right? Like, I don't I'm so grateful that I don't owe investors, right? Like I invested my own time and money and energy into this project. And so unlike many other startup companies where they owe money, I'm in this unique position to really like think outside of the box and pivot when you need to. And I'm grateful that I have that control in my company, that I'm able to pivot when I need to, right? Because without pivoting, really, your hope can, kind of go. It's a tough space. And when the marketing budget is always the first to go, and you're a marketing agency, you're like, oh, this is rough.
Yeah.
But I always think of like, if I've been able to survive in those difficult times, I always say like, cannabis is like riding the waves, right? Like, if you're paddleboarding, like you got a long board, you can get through the waves. Like you really have to go with the flow of the space and not get too disappointed and also not have expectations, right? So it's really, your business plan is always changing in this space, and it's always growing and evolving. But yeah, like for me, failure is not an option. Like I'm in a space that I'm very grateful to be in. I love what I do. And I love what we create around our experiences. So I'm very lucky for that. But there has been times that it is really hard to see where your future is going to be in a space that is so restricted and constantly changing. And again, it's not like any other industry where we're like, hey, this is your Q1 marketing budget. It's not going to change, right? It's like your Q1 marketing budget just got cut in half because the prices went down and like everyone's suffering. So I think that, it's having faith, like hope that like we're in such a the beginning stages of this space. Like if you're strong now as an entrepreneur, you are going to be doing great in a few years. You just have to grind it out while it's difficult. Diamonds are made under pressure, right? Like this is hard. This industry is rough, and it will shape you into being like, once you operate in the cannabis space, I am confident you can go in any other industry and you will do phenomenal, right? Like we've really had to learn to think outside of the box, be creative, and be really mindful of our budgets,
Yeah. Well, entrepreneurs are my favorite people, and you are definitely one of my favorite people.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Of course. Thanks for having me.